Welcome to the Morning Ritual Podcast, meditations and conversations to set the tone for your day. I'm your host, Lily Balch. Today we'll be in conversation with Dana Slamp. So this is a super special episode for you because we are together in person in London at the studio. Dana flew in from New York just a couple days ago, so she might have a little bit of jet lag. We've had a huge weekend, and before she zips back to New York, we thought we'd get some recording time in. So Dana, how are you feeling?
I'm good. I love it here in the space. It's absolutely gorgeous. It smells gorgeous. It looks gorgeous. And even the plants are like, hey, we've been joking that the plants are like jazz hand helpers at the side of the studio. So that's been really grounding. And thank you so much for having me. You, the other teachers, managers, and the community of the space have been so welcoming. And I think we really dove deep into community and learning.
Yeah, it's been really, really awesome to have you here. And for our listeners, Dana Slamp has been on the podcast before. If you haven't heard that episode, it's only a few episodes back. So definitely check that out. But Dana and I'm going to say go way back. I met her probably 10 years ago as a student. I went through her yoga therapy program in New York City, PYI, Prema Yoga Institute. And she's been a mentor, a teacher, and now a really good friend. So it's so cool to have you on here. And I want to dive right in the interest of time. So Dana is an incredible yoga therapist. And I thought we could dive into yoga therapy. And yeah, is that cool? And start with what is yoga therapy?
Yoga therapy is one of those things that when I first heard it, I went, oh, and I dropped down and I understood it because I had been using yoga therapeutically ever since I started in order to manage anxiety and depression. That was my way into receiving the therapeutic benefits of yoga. And there are other things along the way, right? Community is always part of the medicine too, right? Like we talked about this weekend. If I had to give an elevator speech, I would say that yoga therapy is the process of empowering a student or client for their wellness, to support their wellness. And as an extension of yoga teaching, yoga therapists are trained to support students and clients through disease management and condition management. So it goes one step further of being able to modify all the techniques of yoga. So it could be asana, it could be mindfulness, meditation, sound yoga, right, are all part of it. Whatever works, philosophy, right? Community, dharma, in order to support our wellness and disease and condition management.
Yeah, great. And you kind of touched on this on that elevator pitch. Thank you. But I was thinking why I'm a proud alum of PYI and I trained for 1,000 hours and more than 2 years to become a yoga therapist. So, but I want to hear from you, why would one work with a yoga therapist specifically versus a yoga teacher who has, say, the 200-hour vinyasa training? And is it because you're getting that one-on-one attention? And what is the main differentiator there?
I think if there's a disease or injury, if there's injury, recovery, or condition present, it's good to speak to an expert, to speak to someone who has studied specifically over 2 years in order to use yoga when you're managing something that's allopathic. I also think if you're the person who comes up after class and you're asking your yoga teacher super deep questions about your injury recovery or why do I feel this or that, that's a good indication that it's time to do a one-on-one with an advanced therapeutic teacher or yoga therapist. And that's starting to blend where the therapeutic yoga teachers are becoming more formalized and getting the certification. Also, if you're looking to hire a yoga pro and you work in a clinical setting, best practices are to hire a yoga therapist because they know how best to work in those settings.
Yeah, and something else when we were kind of chit-chatting about what do we want to talk about on the podcast, you mentioned something about how in our society in the West, we have like allopathic doctors. We have mental health professionals and therapists, psychologists, and yoga therapists are addressing mind, body, and spirit.
Absolutely. At this point in our Western cultures, everything is really bifurcated and everybody is compartmentalized. And this all stems from really Cartesian thought. Back when Descartes wanted to talk about the mind and he didn't want to get in trouble with the church, right? These things were separated into these boxes of mind, body, and spirit. And in yoga philosophy, it's all really the same thing. We talk about it more as koshas, as sheaths, of everything that's us happening at the same time. One of the problems is if you're a listener and you've had a surgery, or maybe you've had a baby, or you've had an injury, recovery, or condition, it can get really disassembling for the spirit when your amazing psychologist is not talking to your amazing oncologist. And now the best allopathic care providers have more integrative ways of managing that. Whether that's happening or not, whether you're in that position, or even if you have the funds to support that. In yoga therapy, we're one of the only few people that are talking about the bridge between all those things. They're talking about those things all at once and doing intake for all those things all at once. So our scope is what's between the scopes in a way. There's a lot of, in yoga therapy, there's a lot of compiling our referral list so we know the best allopathic care providers to refer to. What we're doing, though, is about integrating. We're some of the only people, really, that I can think of off the top of my head that do that all at once. So in our programs, we have a lot of therapists and PTs that come in because they are already seeing that the work that they're doing is bleeding in, right, to mind and spirit or body. Like, say, mental health care providers that want to do more somatic work, right? This is very important because trauma is really stored in the body. Early childhood trauma isn't even in the narrative. It forms before our minds have the ability to tell a story. So there's been a pretty long and cultivated movement in psychology to work more with the body because, as you know, the famous Bessel van der Kolk phrase is, the body keeps the score. So we're very much about integration, right?
Yeah. Awesome. And in one of the workshops that we had with Dana this weekend here in London, she so beautifully had us do a little icebreaker moment, which just turning around and seeing who's next to you and having a conversation in these settings is beautiful for community. So I'm going to put that in my back pocket to just do that more. But one of the icebreaker questions, which for our listeners is something you could do right now, is think about, we had to share when, where, with who do we feel whole? What are the activities you're doing? Where are the places? Who are you with when you feel whole? And I think that's worth thinking about and considering and journaling on and reflecting on. And the sort of consensus we all came to was that it was when we were out of our logical problem-solving brain and more of a relaxed, experiential situation, like being out on a walk, being with friends, being in nature. Where's your mind going when I talk about this wholeness?
Well, I'm curious, when and where and with whom do you feel whole?
So I was saying that nature was the first thing that popped into my brain, and specifically on like a big beach walk. And when I'm home in Florida, where I grew up home, I start every day with a sunrise beach walk, and it's just like my happy place. Oh my gosh. And the sound of the ocean certainly does not hurt. I love it. And more so when I look deeper into it, it's like when I'm connected to my true nature. So when I feel like I'm being my authentic self, when I feel like I'm tapped into capital S self, when I feel connected to my true nature in the present moment. And if you elevate that and I'm in nature Oh, wholeness. How about you?
Same. I think it's when I'm walking my dog. My dog. I don't have a dock to walk. I'm not really sure what a dock is. I heard dog. I'm gonna blame it on the jet lag. No, I live 5 minutes from Central Park, and it's really, all about location. I have this like rickety old 100-year-old place, which is actually pretty long in the US in New York, right? It's like over this hardware store on this like main drag high street, right? It's on the high street, but I can get to Central Park in 5 minutes. And the dog himself grounds me, because he's in the moment. Also movement, my meditations, and I've been gravitating, and we talked about this a little bit too, gravitating more towards grounding meditations. So sound work, really visualizing roots, deepening my exhale makes me feel really connected. And I've really been toying with this large thought that to me feels like changing everything. That the difference between longing, where honestly, since I was a child, I lived a lot in a world of fantasy and desire, almost a longing that, what's it called? Limerence, right? Okay. And what the difference between that longing and belonging is being. What can I do where I'm really being?
So that's huge. Can you play that sentence one more time?
The difference between longing and belonging is being. And it can come with the exhale. It can come with looking in someone's eyes. Touch is incredibly grounding. We spend a lot of time talking about, of course, consent around touch, but touch can be really healing. Singing also, that's a longer exhale, chanting, being in nature. A lot of folks talked about, like, say, playing with their grandkids, or, yoga practice came up a lot in our workshop. Cooking, right? In yogic thought, actually, your senses are also part of the kosha, the sheath that informs your emotions. So if your emotions are spinning, if your thoughts are spinning, can you, come back to grounding senses? And interestingly enough, that's also a clinical intervention for anxiety, dissociation, spinning out, is coming back to your senses. And it's something that Western psychology and yogic thought have in common. It's coming back to your senses, being.
That's so beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. And
absolutely.
Speaking of dogs, if you're up for it, you shared a story. It was an intimate story, so no pressure, but delivering the dog.
Right.
Would you be willing to share that story here?
Sure. So this was a gift from my subconscious that came in a dream. And we all have those dreams that are like, what is that? What just happened? And then there's also a feeling of, every once in a while there's a dream of, that's the thing to pick out. That actually has meaning. And this has had meaning for me really for 15 years now, because it represented a turn in my life, or maybe a little less. Anyway, I just gone through this breakup. I was engaged, and then I was suddenly disengaged. And I'd also been working professionally as an actor, and I'd gotten to Broadway and done some world premieres, stage premieres, and then nothing changed, right? It was still just as hard. And through those two experiences, I had already gotten my yoga certification, and I'd been through like 2-3 years of teaching, and I was teaching part-time, which is how a lot of teachers operate. And there's some value to that. But at this point, I was like, forget it. I have no interest in going into a room and saying somebody else's words and caring if these strangers like me or not, And that's what acting had become to me, for me in that moment. And so I just threw myself into teaching, and sometimes other people are easier than us, right? It's easier to think about others than it is about us. And that's how I was grounding, and that's how I shifted my focus. And this was pre-yoga therapy training or anything. And I had this dream that I was standing on this long dock, and there was this huge, huge old city, like New York, London size city right there. And I was the only person on the dock on the ocean. And the lighting was all like black and white, sepia kind of tone. And there was this massive tsunami coming. And then on top of the wave was this cutest little mutt just sitting, kind of like a cartoon mutt. And he was curious. He was looking right at me. And I realized, oh, this wave is coming. It's going to destroy us. And this dog is coming right towards me. And the next thing that happens is like this 36 views of Mount Fuji, huge tsunami came over the city, destroyed the city, came over the dock. I remained standing on the dock, and the dog just went and sat right in front of me. And I realized this was not my dog. But the dog belonged to the people in the city, and it was my job to deliver the dog. And it wasn't lost on me, what dog is in reverse. It's God. And that this position of being a yoga teacher and being a Westerner is that this is not my, yoga does not belong to me. I don't think it belongs to anybody, but if it did, it certainly wouldn't belong to me. It certainly wouldn't belong to us. But there's God in it, in its way. And I understood that as my task, and I accepted it. And at that time in New York was like 2008, 2009, where there'd just been this huge financial crash. And I remember going to teach the Sunday after that, like last Black Friday or whatever it was. And people were crying, people were leaving early, right? And therapist friends of mine were saying that people were saying, I lost half my wealth. And if you think about that, to say that no, I lost half my value, that, your money is your value. Obviously, this is not a situation that, can be fixed with a couple asanas. If you truly believe that your worth and value is in your portfolio, then we have larger things to evaluate as a community, right? So yeah, I've been delivering the dog all this time. Yeah.
I love it. When I was a newer yoga teacher and freshly 200-hour trained teachers come to me and they're maybe really nervous about teaching and they don't want to mess up and blah, 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 I just say, let the yoga do the work. Put them in the posture and say 5 rounds of breath. Strip it back and just deliver the yoga, deliver the dog. To me, that's also what's coming through, is that it's it's not so much about us. It's not so much about we can drop the ego there and deliver the work. And it becomes very honest and pure in that way.
100%. Trust the yoga and trust the internal teacher of the student.
Yes.
So when you say yoga therapy, it could make people think that you're an expert, and you train not to be an expert. You're really paid for your presence. You're trained to be curious and to take intake and to really listen with motivational interviewing and oftentimes intention setting, so that you can really pick up the change talk of what the internal teacher of the student really wants. So it's not about being the expert so much as it is about holding a space.
Yeah, and connecting them to their inner wisdom, their inner teacher.
Absolutely.
So motivational interviewing, for the listeners who don't know what that is. Wait, can we play?
A little bit. We have 3 minutes.
Okay,
let's do like an intention setting using motivational interviewing.
Perfect.
And this is used across the care continuum, and you can be non-licensed to use motivational interviewing. So it's a great coaching technique that we use in yoga therapy. And I'm going to meld it a little bit with helping you create an intention.
Perfect.
Okay.
Let's do it.
What would you like to work on today?
I've just begun doing video for the podcast. Like, this is the first time I've done it. So it's getting kind of meta here. But I have a lot of insecurity around putting myself out there, particularly on video. And I do want to share this work with as many people as possible, the podcast and whatnot. But there's a lot of fear that's coming up for me around putting myself out there, and specifically like on video.
Well, if we had to really break it down and you said, how excited are you about working on video on a scale of 1 to 10?
I'm excited, like 9 to 10. I really want to go there. Yeah.
Okay. That's pretty good to get to a 9 to 10.
Like, the excitement's there, but my fear is bringing me down to like a 5. So the excitement's there, but my sort of courage to be vulnerable and actually do it, I feel like I'm at a 5.
So what would it take to get you from 5 back to 9 and 10?
I would have to, I think, release some fear. Fear of being judged is primarily the one. And tap into more courage. It's coming up for me.
Let's take a big breath in. Good. And place a hand on your belly and let's let the breath come down to your gut. All right. Is it okay if I touch you?
Yeah.
Okay. So when you were speaking, you said that you wanted to share with as many people as possible. Did I have the right words?
Yeah.
Okay. Tell me about what you're sharing.
I'm sharing tools and techniques and stories to relieve suffering from myself and others.
Okay. Sharing tools and techniques, which has nothing to do with fear. That's the nice thing, right? Or judgment. So take a breath into your belly. And you can say your name.
My name is Lily.
I'm
a lot of things.
I know. Who's the person who's sharing? Fear-free. Who is she? Is she a podcaster?
Oh, I'm a podcaster.
Try it again. My name is Lily. I'm a podcaster.
My name is Lily. I'm a podcaster. And I share tools to relieve suffering.
How does it feel?
Good.
Yeah, you wanted to drop down.
In my head, I needed to drop into my heart, my gut.
Right. When you first said it, it was joyful, right? It was free. It really flowed.
Yeah.
Right. Is there anything in the phrase so far that feels in your head still?
I think I'm a podcaster. Because this is like just an extension of what I do. And I've done it for 4 years, but I still feel a funny saying I'm a podcaster. Isn't that wild?
It really is. And don't you have over 1 million views?
Yeah.
Right. So what techniques will help you come back to this authenticity of being a podcaster?
I think coming back to my intentions and coming back to like tuning into my authentic self and what I really want to offer, and kind of like what you said, just delivering the dog. I'm not making any of this up. I'm sharing information that I've learned, or I'm sharing information that I've experienced.
Say it again. My name is Lily, and let's take out podcasting for now, right? Because what you've shared in the past with me, which I really thought was so bold and I resonated with, and I would love to mirror back to you now, is you said you want to be your authentic self, however, wherever you show up, right?
Yeah.
Right. So it almost doesn't matter whether you're a podcaster, a teacher, a yoga therapist, what hat you're wearing at that moment. Lily's walking in the door.
Yeah.
Okay, good. So I see that. So she's nodding. Her face is softening, which shows that there's like less stress in it. Her shoulders are down and her breath is easy. So she's not showing any signs of stress right now, which is pretty great because we're on video and you're managing the studio and there's someone at the door and she's still negotiating these things because she gets to show up as Lily, right? Yeah. So yeah, right. You feel that?
It's refreshing when you let yourself show up as you.
Absolutely.
It's like stressful, to your point. I guess the sentence would be, my name is Lily and I share tools to relieve suffering.
To ease suffering.
To ease suffering.
Right? If we relieve suffering, then it's almost like we're trying to do the job of the entire team. And on the team might be the therapist, the doctor, people who have scope, right?
Yeah.
Ours is to share tools, yes, ease, because a lot of times in yoga therapy, we're just helping people manage the treatment so that the treatment can do the work. So let's try it.
Yeah. My name is Lily, and I share tools for ease.
Mm-hmm. What I'm also looking for, if I can kind of pull back the curtain, is I'm looking for an intention that includes Lily. A lot of times we project what we want to do onto others, and the language doesn't include us. And I assure you, there's no system of love that doesn't include you. And I'm talking to you, caregivers. You know who you are, right? It's the moms, it's the daughters, it's the parents. And it might just be somebody in a work setting. Oftentimes we take on the role of caregiver and we're projecting onto others, just like I did at that one delivering the dog moment. Eventually I had to understand that I was delivering the dog for me too. I needed to have an intention that includes me. And when you're delivering tools for ease, and I know this from your own sadhana, your own practice, you're delivering tools for your ease too, right?
Totally.
I want to affirm that you're learning and practicing what grounds you. And that is making it more effective.
For the other.
And if we're working together longer than 3 minutes, we might revisit this. She might say this every morning for 10, after her meditation, 10 times, see how it feels. We could always go back and edit it. But right now it's, my name is Lily, right?
My name is Lily, and I share tools for ease.
Feels pretty easy to me.
Feels pretty good. Dana, thank you so much. It was such a pleasure. And next time, we need to have more time. And for those of you listening, thank you so much for listening to The Morning Ritual. And we're going to end the way that we always do, with a full breath in, a complete breath out, and have a lovely day.